Okay, let's get into this. Today we're doing a deep dive into something really fascinating. It's a kind of the crossroads of music history, classic Americana, and some pretty cutting-edge tech. You've brought us some amazing sources about a song called Wich Stand. And our mission today really is to unearth its whole story. It's got this mysterious journey, from a lost master tape back in '63 to a, well, very surprising comeback decades later. And this isn't just about a lost Brian Wilson song. It's also about the whole LA car culture scene it came from, that amazing Wich Stand Diner building, and how this track, which most people have never heard, actually fits right into the early Beach Boys sound. We're even going to touch on how modern AI is, like literally bringing this lost music back. So thinking about a Brian Wilson track from '63, never released, what's the first thing that grabs you about that?
Well, what's really striking is just how much history, how much culture is packed into one unreleased song. Wich Stand, it's really like a time capsule. Brian Wilson wrote it in 1963, right when he was churning out so much stuff. But interestingly, it wasn't the Beach Boys who recorded it.
Oh, right.
It was session musicians. Guys like Bob Norberg, Rich Peterson, Dave Nolan. Now, that wasn't totally out of the ordinary for Brian. He'd often work with these, top-level players for demos or other projects before maybe bringing it to the main band.
Okay, so it's a legit Brian Wilson song recorded by these great musicians, but then nothing. No official release, and then the master tape just disappears. How often did that kind of thing happen? Something like this just vanishing?
It happened probably more than you'd think, especially back then with someone as prolific as Brian Wilson. Archiving wasn't always, let's say, the top priority for unreleased stuff. Its sort of obscurity connects it to other lost Wilson tracks from around then, which sometimes only survived because fans tracked them down or through bootlegs. But Wich Stand, its story didn't just stop there. It got this incredible second chance decades later.
And that came from Dave Nolan, one of the original guys who played on it. That's amazing. In the 1990s, so like nearly 30 years later, he actually recreated Wich Stand. Just from memory, made this low-quality demo. I mean, just imagine remembering a song you played maybe once all those years ago, well enough to record it again. What does that say about the song itself? It must have really stuck with him.
Oh, absolutely. It says a lot, I think, both about how catchy the song must have been and, frankly, about Dave Nolan's incredible musical recall. That '90s demo is super important because, with no official release, no high-quality tape surviving, Nolan's sort of rough version likely became the main reference point for the lyrics, the basic structure of the song. Even though it wasn't great quality, it kept the song alive.
Right. And that's where the modern tech comes in, this idea of reimagining this lost gem. We've got this AI version by Day Lims, which sounds incredibly like the Beach Boys, like scarily close. How does AI even do that without the original tape?
It is pretty astounding. Since there's no original master, Day Lims probably used AI that was heavily trained on the Beach Boys' early stuff. Think Surfin' Safari, Surfer Girl, that whole 1962-63 period sound. These AI tools, they analyze just hours and hours of music to learn how to mimic everything. The vocal harmonies, the specific surf guitar sounds, the drum patterns, even the overall production style of that era. So it's not just a cover song. It's built to sound exactly like the Beach Boys because the AI has basically learned their musical fingerprint.
Wow. It's incredible that AI can sort of bridge that gap from 1963 to now and let new people hear something that was lost. But is it really bringing it back to life if it's not the original? Is it more like a really accurate copy or something new?
That's a really good question, and it gets into tricky territory about, what's authentic when AI gets involved. It's definitely not the original recording, but you could call it a very accurate reconstruction, like taking the blueprint, the song itself, and building it using the exact sound tools of the original artists. And the fact that there are multiple modern takes, like Daylim's AI track and another one by Donnie Doom, that just shows the song still resonates. And it's almost certain that both of these modern versions probably got their lyrics and structure from Dave Nolan's demo from the '90s, which just highlights again how vital that rough recording was.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the world this song actually describes. Because it's more than just music, right? It's painting a picture of a whole time and place. Those lyrics cruising down the strip in our metal flake blue Grand Prix, that just instantly puts you there.
It really does. Yeah, connecting it to the culture, those lyrics just scream 1950s, 1960s American car culture. Cruising was like the thing for young people then. Showing off your car, hanging out, hitting the popular spots. And Metal Flake blue, that wasn't just any blue, that was custom.
Yeah.
Sparkly paint, really showing off under the lights. It just yells cool for that specific time.
And the place to be was the Wich Stand Diner. This wasn't some random spot. It was a real landmark, right? View Park Windsor Hills, Slauson, and Overhill. And it had that amazing googie architecture, tilting roof, big spire, neon sign.
Exactly. The Witch stand was like the perfect example of a 50s coffee shop diner. Pure Googie style, that futuristic space age look. Sharp angles, bold signs, very eye-catching. That style was huge in Southern California back then. Diners, coffee shops, drive-ins. The Witch stand's look, especially that neon dark sign, made it impossible to miss. It was a real social center.
So way more than just burgers and fries. It was, like the song says, where the honeys were all over the lot, where you'd wait for an open spot. It was basically ground zero for the cruising scene.
Precisely. The lyrics really nail that reality. The diner as the place to see and be seen. And its importance went beyond just the building itself. It was tied into this famous cruising route, this 5-mile loop between the A&W on Hawthorne Boulevard and the Witch Stand. It was so well known, people actually called it Cruisin' the A.
Ah, okay. And that's the connection back to the Beach Boys, right? Because Brian Wilson's early songs were all about cars, surfing, that specific California youth scene. You hear it in Surfin' Safari 409.
Absolutely. Witch Stand, even though it wasn't an official Beach Boys band recording, it just feels like their early stuff. It fits perfectly with those themes. Remember, the Beach Boys were from Hawthorne, places like that A&W, the Witch Stand, that was their local stopping ground, so it makes total sense Brian Wilson would write about them.
And wasn't there another Beach Boys song tied to that same route?
Yeah, Chug-a-Lug, from the '62 album Surfin' Safari. It was inspired by that exact same cruising circuit, Cruisin' the A.
Right. So Witch Stand really does feel like a lost chapter in that early Beach Boys story then.
It really does. Chug-a-Lug is more about drinking root beer and goofing off, but it shares the identical backdrop with Witch Stand. Both songs capture that driving, socializing, diner culture, that whole Southern California vibe Brian Wilson was so good at bottling up. So yeah, finding Witch Stand, even as this unreleased track written by Brian, it definitely adds another layer to their legacy in that whole musical era.
So wrapping this up, what does all this mean for you listening? We've really dug into how one song, Wich Stand, is so much more than just notes and words. It's a genuine time capsule. We traced how this 1963 Brian Wilson piece, even with no official release and a lost tape, somehow made it back to us. Through Dave Nolan's memory decades later, that 90s demo, and now through the honestly incredible power of AI, like Day Lim's version, and Donnie Doom's take too. And we connected those dots, saw how the song perfectly captures that whole 50s and 60s LA cruising scene, the Googie style Wich Stand diner, that legendary cruise in the A route. It wasn't just about driving. It was like a whole social thing for kids, cars, rock and roll. And it's deeply connected to where the Beach Boys came from.
Yeah, this whole exploration really shows how technology can, bring back these lost bits of culture, make them real again for new generations, but also keep the history they hold alive. It really speaks to how powerful music is, that even a pretty obscure, unreleased track can contain so much insight into a time and place.
It really does.
And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? In this age where AI can recreate a lost sound almost perfectly, how does that change how we think about rediscovery versus maybe authenticity? What's the line there? And maybe more excitingly, what other lost pieces of history, musical or otherwise, are just out there waiting for technology to bring them back into the light?